Hey there, my name is Kelly Dale and I'm owner of Off the Beaded Path, which is located in Forest City, North Carolina. For today's video, I wanted to get away from needle and thread and kind of teach you a very simple cuff bracelet that you can make out of memory wire. Now, to make the cuff bracelet, what you're going to need is 4 10mm round beads, 16 8mm round beads, 18 6mm round beads, 138 4mm round beads, 2 4-hole daisy spacers, and I'll show those to you as we get started. You're going to need some memory wire. Memory wire comes, it depends on the company you buy it from. The Beadsmith company carries several different sizes of the beading wire or the memory wire. Today I'm going to be using 2 1/4 is the size that I have on here. That's the diameter on the inside. You're also going to need 4 head pins, some round nose pliers, and the most important thing is you're going to need some memory wire cutters, okay? This is what the memory wire cutters look like. They're made so that they'll cut just the memory wire. They'll cut anything basically. They're really good for aluminum wire because they'll give you a nice straight cut. But the thing I like about really that you need to impress on you about these is that you definitely want to cut your memory wire with memory wire cutters, because if not, it can ruin your good cutters that you might have. So just be sure and use a really good pair of memory wire cutters. So let's go ahead and get your materials together, and then I'm going to get started by showing you the samples, some of the samples that I've made, so you'll get an idea of the project that we're going to be doing. So here's the cuff bracelet that I want to show you how to make today. It is a 4-strand cuff. It's got, this one is silver pearls. I've got a different sample here to show you. This one has 10mm light Colorado topaz Swarovski rounds and then bronze colored pearls. And then this one here is actually all Swarovski. These are 10mm Black Colorado Topaz, 8mm Golden Shadow, 6mm Sand Opal, and then 4mm are my Light Colorado Topaz. Now, as you can see, my daisy spacers on this one are really pretty antique copper. Today, I'll actually be using the silver, which is a pewter color, and it's pewter and it's metal. They're really easy to use, and I'll show you how to use those. As you can see on the samples, each of my samples overlaps on the bottom here. Once you put it on your wrist, it'll basically touch like this. It might overlap just a little, but you need that overlap, because if you don't have that overlap, it's going to be too big and fall off your wrist. So like I said, the first thing you'll need is some memory wire. I'm using the 2 1/4 diameter today. You can use the 2, the 2 1/4, the 2 1/2, whatever you want on this. But once you pull it out of its pack, you'll see it's like a slinky, basically, is what you've got. So what I want to do is I'm going to take my memory wire cutters. Here's the very end of my memory wire. I want to make sure that the overlap on the ring is at least 2 inches. And then what I'm going to do is take my wire cutters and cut. So I've got one solid ring here, and as you can see, it has about a 2 to 2.5 inch overlap. You want to cut 4 pieces that way. So find the end of your wire. Make sure when it comes back around, here's the very end, that you've got at least a 2 inch overlap, and cut. So now that gives you 2. So you want to continue until you have 4 pieces of your memory wire cut. Now that I have my 4 pieces cut, I'm ready to start the bracelet. So I'm going to pick up my round nose pliers, and I'm going to come on the very end of one end of the wire, and I'm going to turn the wire to make a loop. Now, you'll want to make sure that your loop is closed. You don't want an open loop. And when you make your loops, you want to make sure that all your loops are a consistent size. So when you make your loops on all of the pieces of the wire, make sure that you try to stick with a consistent size such as this. The first thing that you're going to start with is your 4mm rounds, and you want to thread on 14 of those. Alright, so I'm going to double check here to make sure I've got 14. And I do. So you can let those slide all the way to the end if you want to, because our loop that we made will stop those beads from falling off. The next thing you want to thread on is your 4-hole daisy spacer. So you're going to thread on the very end hole, doesn't matter which end, but you just want to thread on one end. 2 4mm. Now 2 6mm. 2 8mm. 1 10mm. And then you're going to reverse the order and put on 2 8s, 2 6s, 2 4s, so that when you pull it down, this is what you've got so far. Then we'll thread on another daisy spacer, and you want the very end hole. And then you want to put on 14 more 4mm rounds. Now that you've got your 14 added, you're ready to finish off the other end of the bracelet. So you want to make sure all your beads are pulled all the way down. And then use your cutters, your memory wire cutters, and cut off, leaving yourself about 1/2 inch. Then you'll take your round nose pliers, make you a loop, make sure that loop is closed, so that now you've got a loop on each end, and this is what you should have. When you start the second, third, and fourth strand, you'll start in the same way. You'll start your loop, and you'll thread on 14 4mm. Now, you have to pay attention how you actually put this onto your bars, because I want these beads, the way I'm holding it, it's laying like this or like this. So I want to thread, now that I've got my 14, I'm going to thread it through the second hole of the daisy spacer, so that when I twist it around like this, it's exactly as it should be right next to the other 14 on the first one, and it's not flipped the wrong way. Once you've got those 14 on there and you've got it into the second hole of the daisy spacer, then you're ready to pick up your pattern here in the middle. So that was 2 4mm, 2 6mm, 2 8mm rounds, 1 10mm round, and then you reverse the order, so you'll have 2 8s, 2 6s, and 2 4s. Once you have the middle part completed, then you're ready to stick it through the second hole of the other daisy spacer, so that when you pull it, I'm going to hold it like this, you can see now that you have your 2 strands on top, you've got 2 strands on the side here. So now you'll go ahead and put your 14 4mm on and then make your loop on this end of the bracelet. Once you've completed the second strand, then you'll complete the third and the fourth strand in exactly the same way as you did the second strand. Once you finish, you've just got 8 ends that are just kind of hanging out there. So I want to show you how to finish those out. I'm going to take a head pin and I'm going to put on 1 6mm. I'm going to make a wrapped loop right above that bead. And I'm going to do that to the second one also. So you'll have 2 little 6mm that have a little wrapped loop over the top of them. Okay, so you've got your 2 6mm. Now you are ready to work on the very end. So I'm going to take 1 head pin and I'm going to thread on 1 4mm. I'm going to work on one end at a time. So I'm going to thread that head pin into the very end loop on one end of the bracelet. Once you've got that one put in, then you want to thread on 1 4mm, and you're going to take that same head pin and slide it into the second loop on the end, so that when you pull it, they're connected just like that. Pick up a 4mm, thread it on, go through the third loop, 1 4mm, and go through the fourth loop. So now when you do that, they're connected just like this. What we want to do at this point, and I'm going to show it to you here on the end, we've added these beads. Now we're going to add 1 more 4mm, and we're going to start our wrapped loop so that we can add our little dangle here. So I'm going to add 1 more 4mm, and then right above that last bead, I'm going to make sure these are pulled down nice and tight, and I'm going to start a wrapped loop. Now before I finish the loop, I'm going to take one of my little 6mm, thread it on, and then you're ready to finish the wrap on the head pin. So once I finish the wrap, this side is now complete. Now we have to work on doing this side. And the thing that you have to remember is on this side, we started with our head pin down here. On this end, this right side end, we're going to start going down to this end, so that way we'll have an embellishment on this end and then an embellishment on this end, so they'll be opposite. So I'm going to take my head pin, thread on 1 4mm, and go through the first loop. Thread on 1 4mm, go through the second loop, thread on 1 4mm, go through the third loop, 1 4mm, go through the last loop, and then we're going to thread on 1 4mm, Make sure those are pulled down nice and tight. Start a wrapped loop. And now before you finish it, go ahead and thread on the other 6mm that you've got and finish out the wrapped loop. So now both ends of my bracelet are complete, and that means that my bracelet is complete. And it's very easy. It just slides right on your wrist so that you have a very pretty cuff bracelet. And now see what I meant about overlapping? You need that overlap, because if you don't, see how mine is? It barely meets, and that's exactly how you want it. You want it to just barely meet or barely overlap when you actually have it on your wrist. So it's a cuff style bracelet. So this is the black one that I completed today. And it's got, and this is actually what they call Druk beads, D-R-U-K. They're just non-faceted glass beads. And then just to show you some more samples, again, like this is pearls, and then I used the crystals in the center. And then here's another one that's all crystals. So, I mean, you can make this as blingy as you want it, or as elegant as you want it. So it's just a really fun bracelet to make. So I hope you guys enjoyed this easy memory wire cuff bracelet. We will have the pattern and kits available on our website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. In the kits, we'll have the silver, like you've seen here. We'll have a cocoa, which is a beautiful creamy brown color, and we'll have white available in these kits. So they're a really, really fun project to make. We'll also have extra daisy spacers in the copper and the silver on our website also. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again next week for another fun project. Bye-bye!